course, your host, John Campea. It's an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, joining me as we gather around and talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, and all that sorts of good stuff. And guys, it's like God smiled and showered down rainbows of happiness because Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett is back, ladies and gentlemen. Robert, how you doing, sir?
John, it's great to be back, and I feel like there are rainbows just emanating from me, from every orifice, which is always good.
That you have. And listen, speaking of joy and happiness, one of my dear friends, Erin Cummings, is joining us here again today. Erin, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I thought that honor was for me with the gods raining down rainbows, and I was over here blushing and getting all giddy, and then all of a sudden, that's for Robert. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. And then there's Erin.
Erin, look, I didn't even realize this. Here's the funny thing, Rob. I've known Erin
many years.
Yes. Many years. She was in my little movie, The Anniversary. We go back a long way.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still shocked that I have to find out some of the shit she's doing.
What do you mean?
By IMDb. I still have to find out some of the stuff she's doing by IMDb.
Well, like what?
You were in The Disaster Artist, and I didn't even know you were in that movie until I was in the theater watching it.
Well,
you did not know that. You did not.
She was in Blacklist. She was like the main featured guest character on one episode of Blacklist, which I watch all the time.
I was.
And Anna watches like, is that Erin? And then I'm picking up my phone and going to Erin. And you just did NCIS. I did.
NCIS. Yes, and I got to play Mark Harmon's love interest, which was totally fulfilling my fangirl fantasy from back when I was a fan from summer school. Do you guys remember summer school?
I love summer school.
And I actually asked him, I go, that dog that licked the peanut butter off your finger and then you licked your finger, was that your dog? And he goes, no, it wasn't my dog. He goes, but I did make that dog a star. That dog went on to a big career after that movie. So, yeah.
Well,
I'm sorry. I definitely will. I will send you in a message every time I book something. I have a new show coming out this fall on CBS. It's called
Language Arts.
No, that's actually a film that I did that I'm super excited about coming out.
Oh, that's a film. I just assumed that because I knew you were doing a new pilot for I didn't realize, but I just assumed that Language Arts was it. But you got another thing.
So yeah, Language Arts is an incredible film that I did about autism that I shot in Seattle in the fall of last year. But no, I did a pilot that got picked up to CBS, and CBS is very excited about it. It's starring Simone Missick and has Mark Helgenberger, who can do no wrong as far as I'm concerned.
China Beach.
Yes, China Beach, and she is. She's also one of the stars of it. And I'm reuniting with my Astronaut Wives Club co-star Wilson Bethel. It's an amazing cast of like Tony Award winners, really incredible actors. It's called All Rise, and it's on CBS. And it's going to take a deep dive into the not so lovely world of the criminal justice system. And I play the most highly decorated LAPD officer who might be a little dirty. And not in a good way.
All right.
And not in a good way.
Not in a good way.
There's going to be lots of fun, juicy conflict. So that'll be Monday nights on CBS starting on September 23rd.
That's awesome. So I just assumed that was the same thing. I didn't realize that was a separate movie. Anyway, guys, listen, we've got a whole bunch of things that we need to talk about here today. We've got a bunch of main topics as well. But before we get into the main topics, let's get started right off the top with this. You know, there's not a lot of people behind the camera that the general audience knows their names. Yes, you've got your Spielbergs and your Scorseses and things like that. But when it comes just to the worlds of producers, not a lot of names are recognizable. Maybe not a household name, but a lot of even the most casual film fans know the name of Joel Silver. The guy behind things like The Matrix, the Sherlock Holmes movies, tons and tons and tons and tons of others. A lot of people, Rob, you worked with Joel Silver for a while, if I'm not mistaken.
I did. One of my first jobs in Hollywood was I was a reader at Silver Pictures. I read scripts, and then I later produced a film for Silver Pictures called The Hills Run Red, which was shot in Bulgaria, that he was the executive producer of. So it was from his Dark Castle entertainment division. But yeah.
Now, this morning, out of nowhere, now Joel Silver has his own shingle. It's called Silver Pictures, of course, named after him and blah, blah, blah. And this just came out this morning. Joel Silver is out. Joel Silver is leaving Silver Pictures, the company with his name on it. He is apparently leaving. Now, what they're saying about that right now is this. Now, this comes out of Deadline. And Deadline kind of said this. They said the following. They said, a shakeup has occurred that leaves Joel Silver exiting Silver Pictures, the production company named for him, which he founded. Silver resigned from the company, sources said. There will likely be more to this, but tonight when contacted by Hal Sadoff, the former ICM Partners agent who joined Silver several years ago as their new CEO, said this. Joel Silver recently indicated that he intends to leave Silver Pictures and go out on his own. We are working with him to define a productive way forward given his ongoing contractual obligations to the company. Meanwhile, we're continuing to move ahead with our slate of exciting projects, which includes Sherlock Holmes 3, by the way, of exciting projects, and have had very positive discussions with our studio partners around him. All right. So clearly, one of the first questions I got to ask, how you have started a company, it's got your name on it. How much out on your own can you go? He wants to go out on his own. It's your company with your name on it. Now, look, obviously, and for understandable reasons, there was a bunch of speculation started flying around that I've read. It's like, oh my God, there's some, not conspiracy, there's some controversy that's going to go, there's a scandal that's going to break. He's really been outed from the company. The only thing that makes me doubt the notion that he's been outed is the fact that normally when a company is getting rid of somebody, they don't talk about publicly, they still have obligations to us. They still have things they got to do for us. Like normally that's not how it goes. That's usually language you hear when somebody's going and it's like, okay, I guess you're going to go, but you still have obligations to us. That's what it kind of feels like. So I don't know if I believe any of that. Rob, you're talking about a guy here in Silver who kind of helped redefine what an action film was in the 80s. He found a way to adapt and continue his career as a producer and all that kind of stuff, doing a lot of big stuff throughout the 90s into the 2000s. Just quick thoughts on Joel Silver, and what's your reaction to this news about him departing?
Oh, well, I love how they call him a provocative figure in Deadline, as if like Joel Silver's this sundowner guy who's, the sun's going down in his career. This man was the associate producer of The Warriors 40 years ago.
Right.
He was in the opening of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, playing himself as the screaming producer director. The guy produced Die Hard. Lethal Weapon. I mean, he's one of the most storied producers of the last 40 years of Hollywood. He's also one of the most volatile. He was known for yelling and screaming. I mean, he represented the excess of the 80s and 90s. Just the crazy making of Die Hard 2, chasing the snow and the budget ballooning past $100 million or whatever. I mean, he's had an insane career. So for him to be gone from his own company is a little wacky. I think it's kind of unfortunate. I hope this isn't the end of his career because he's produced. I mean, he produced things like Hudson Hawk. Believe it or not. I mean, the guy has had one of the most storied careers in Hollywood over the last 40 years. He's always been a very divisive figure, and I would hate to see him go out on this note. I'd love to have him come back and make one more movie, something that's very grand and huge, but maybe, I don't know if Joel Silver belongs in today's Hollywood anymore. Maybe that was something that had to do with the world has changed and maybe his type is going to fade into history.
According to the statements, he still intends to keep going. He wants to break out on his own, found another company with again his name on it. I mean, I don't know. I'm also very grateful to him because he produced Nice Guys with Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe, which I love, directed by Shane Black.
Kiss Bang Bang, because he's in with Shane Black all the way back to Predator.
What happened with the new Predator, I have no idea. But anyway, so let me ask you this, Erin. Like, as an actress in this, as a working actress in this town, everybody knows the name Joel Silver.
Sure, of course.
What was your first reaction when you heard that he's stepping away from his own company?
Well, I mean, I think that when people start their own company, there is always a vision of this is how I want things to go. This is where I see the company going. And as the company builds and gets larger and larger and larger, and obviously where it is now, there's a lot of voices and a lot of players. And I think sometimes those things can get away with you. Despite what name is on the marquee out front, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the person who's ultimately making all of the final decisions. And what I interpret from this whole situation is that maybe he had less power in his own company than we believe he did. And that when he wants to branch out to do his own thing, that tells me he wasn't having the ability to do his own thing at the company that he currently is at.
Right, because we all know when you become a corporation, whatever, now you have boards of directors, you have people you have to answer to. And
yeah, and all of a sudden, this thing that you created is not your own anymore. And you just go, and I think just like Robert said, the market, the landscape has changed so much. And certainly the people who are working at the company, I'm sure many of the people who started the company with him are no longer at that company. And now it's a lot of people that maybe faces he doesn't recognize. And I can't imagine that he didn't just wake up one day and go, I don't even know who these people are. I don't even know what this company is. I don't even want to be part of this. You know what? I'm going to go do something else. That's what it strikes me as.
Right. Well, listen, guys, what do you make about all this? One of the most famous, well-known names in the business, Joel Silver, leaving a company with his own name on it. Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down and out of the way, let's go on to our main topics today. How do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. See, you guys do the work. You come up with the main topics by going to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question, hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic or question featured here on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's move on to the first main topic today. And our first main topic today comes to us from our friend Connor Race, who writes, "Hi, John. Huge fan since the AMC days." Well, thank you so much, Connor. "One of the movies that I'm really excited about is Annabelle 3. 1 sucked to high heaven, but 2 was great. The first reactions have come in for part 3, and they have been glowing. Have you seen them?" All right. Thanks a lot for the message, Connor. And I cannot agree with you more about number 1 and number 2. Number 1 was terrible, which is really unfortunate because you had this Annabelle doll that was featured. It was The Conjuring, right? The first Conjuring that the Annabelle doll's in. And it's like, oh my gosh, I want to see a movie about that. They make the first Annabelle movie. It was terrible. Then they decide for some reason to do a sequel, and the sequel was great. I adored the sequel. I thought it was everything that the first one should have been. And now here we are with Annabelle 3, Annabelle Comes Home. And actually, it's not glowing. It's not glowing. The reviews are actually right now pretty mixed. Now, the last time I checked, Annabelle Comes Home is sitting at about 62, which means the majority of critics like it. The majority of critics like it. It's not the worst score in the world by any stretch of the imagination. 62 is just touching on respectable. But it's definitely not the overwhelming glowing, not the follow-up that I was personally hoping for that film. Now, I haven't watched Annabelle Comes Home yet. I'm probably planning on going to go see that tomorrow night. So I haven't watched it yet myself. But I have been looking forward to it simply because of how good that second one was. It sounds like they may have lost a little momentum, and what I'm hearing so far makes it sound like it's kind of falling somewhere in between Annabelle 1 and Annabelle 2. You know what I mean? So not so glowing, but not exactly terrible either. So it sounds to me like if it's the type of movie you're looking forward to, you should probably still look forward to it. Rob, you're hearing these reactions. Number 1, did you have a lot of anticipation for this, Rob? And now what's your reaction to hearing the responses coming out of it?
Well, you know, I did buy Annabelle 2, Annabelle Creation on Blu-ray. I did not buy the first movie on
Right.
Blu-ray, if that's any indication. Look, I love seeing the cast. You got Vera Farmiga coming back.
Who's great.
Who's great. But what I'm really curious about this film because most of it takes place in a house.
Right.
And I love single location films, if only from a filmmaking perspective, to see how it's directed, how it's cut together. How does the filmmaking staff, how do the filmmakers turn one location into someplace exciting? And I've read a few really interesting reviews that have said they've done a great job. And I think using your limited resources to make a film that sort of moves beyond those limited resources is what all low-budget indie, especially horror filmmaking, is all about. And I'm really curious to see it from that standpoint. And I'll watch anything with a killer doll, dude. I mean, what's up? Since the Twilight Zone, since Talking Tina, you better be nice to me. I mean, I'm all in. I am all in.
That's still, I swear to God, it's funny because when it comes to horror, I'm not the biggest horror guy in the world. I mean, I can watch them fine. I'm not a huge fan of horror movies in general. But the stuff that really sticks with me is the older stuff.
Yeah.
My favorite, horror film of all time is still American Werewolf in London.
Oh, that's great.
But
I love American
that episode, of the original Twilight Zone.
With Telly Savalas.
Which I saw for the first time on some rerun when I was probably 10 or 11 or 12.
Yep.
I'm Taki Tina, and I'm going to kill you.
Yep.
I'm like, F, as an 11-year-old, I'm like, F this, I'm out. And that still creeps me out. Whenever I tried to pop on a YouTube clip of it just to revisit, I'm like, I couldn't even watch the whole thing. That still freaks the hell out of me. The stuff about dolls, which also plays into Toy Story 4 a little bit, which we won't give any spoilers on that away, but the whole thing about dolls is just so freaky. Erin, let me ask you this. Number one, have you been looking forward to Annabelle 3? And
no.
like how?
No, I can answer that straight away. I am not like I will 100%. Friday the 13th, Halloween. I mean, I'm all about a stalker slasher film, but I will not watch a crazy doll. I had way too many dolls in my room growing up. My mom still has all of them up on shelves. They creep me out. What was the one? Was it Poltergeist, where she looks under the bed and there's a killer clown?
Yep.
Oh, no.
Under the bed.
I'm done. No, I'm not interested in that at all. So, no. I wish them all the best. I hope they make lots of money. I will never see that film.
And I think there are a few people that fall into that category as well. But listen, guys, now you've heard, I know a bunch of you guys have been looking forward to Annabelle Comes Home. What does the reactions and the reviews coming out right now do for your enthusiasm? Does it not affect your enthusiasm at all? Does it disappoint you a little bit, saying, I was kind of hoping it would be better? Or is it better than you thought? Or you thought, critics will hate this, but actually 62%, that's not bad. Maybe it increases your enthusiasm. Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, with that down, let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today comes to us from Terry Vanderstruck, who writes, Hi, John. We often see almost casting stories like Will Smith in The Matrix and Tom Selleck as Indiana Jones. But I just heard one that makes my head spin. Did you know that the studio wanted Tim Burton to cast Steven Seagal as Batman over Michael Keaton? How much of a disaster will that have been? All right, thanks a lot for that, Terry. Now, for some of you who may be listening to that and going, wait, what? They wanted Steven Seagal? Where does that come from? Okay, so here's where that come from. You guys will know and remember that this week marked the 30th anniversary of the Tim Burton, Michael Keaton Batman, which kind of brought Batman to the big screen for the first time. Well, to commemorate that, an interview was done with one of the screenwriters, Sam Hamm, about it, and they were talking to him about it, and he revealed the following. He said, there were a lot of people at Warner Brothers who wanted to cast it with an action star. They wanted to cast the part as Batman as opposed to casting it as Bruce Wayne. You don't need the martial arts expertise of, say, Steven Seagal or somebody like that because you can fake all that kind of stuff. Seagal was one of the people that was suggested to us. Believe it or not, he had just kind of appeared on the scene. People thought, holy cow, this guy's badass. He could be Batman. So there was actually some thought. Now, I want you guys to notice what is not said here, okay? What is not said here is that Warner Brothers was fighting us on this. You know, what they're not saying, what they're suggesting here is that the studio threw them a name. Say, the Steven Seagal guy, he's hot, he's upcoming, he's a big martial arts guy. This guy could be our Batman. What is not being said was that there was some tug of war between Tim Burton and the studio, where Tim Burton, Warner Brothers was insisting that it be Seagal. Tim Burton was insisting that it be Michael Douglas. Not like that, but it is kind of strange to think about how would history be different had they actually cast a Steven Seagal instead of a Michael Keaton. Because one of the things they said in that interview, Rob, that I thought was very poignant was the whole idea is like, look, you don't cast for when the guy's going to be in the suit. Because if you have to, you can fake that. You can get a stuntman in the studio, whatever. What you cannot do is fake it when it's him on screen acting. You can't fake that. So you got to go for the actor is kind of I'm kind of paraphrasing there, but you got to go for the actor, not the action star in it. And to me, that's the most profound thing. Because so much to me, Rob, that original Batman film, because so much of it was Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne, I don't want to get into too much hyperbole here, but if they had done something like that and gone with a Steven Seagal, who, listen, I get as big of a kick out of Steven Seagal, brainless action films, snapping bones and arms as much as anybody, but come on, he is not a thespian. And I don't want to use hyperbole too much, but yeah, to go with what was written by the viewer, it would have been a disaster. It would have been an absolute disaster. Everything that was classic about it would have been gone. I guarantee you Jack Nicholson wouldn't have done the film had they gotten like a Steven Seagal the lead at that point. So I don't know, Rob, you hearing this story, how much does history change? And how, or maybe I'm being too negative about this. Maybe it wouldn't have been all that bad. How would it have been different if Steven Seagal had been in that role?
Well, first of all, it's not so preposterous. I actually started working at Warner Brothers in feature production right after Batman came out 30 years ago. My God. And Steven Seagal was a huge star at Warner Brothers. He had made these Above the Law, Hard to Kill, directed by Bruce Malmuth, who directed Stallone in Nighthawks. And he was in with Mark Canton, who's the head of the studio. And they were making a series of Steven Seagal, like 3-word movies.
Right.
How Hard to Kill.
They were getting into the Steven Seagal business at the time.
Yeah, they were in the Steven Seagal business, and Above the Law being the first where he plays Nico, whatever the cop's name was. And it was actually pretty good. I mean, now Steven Seagal has become a punchline, really. Yeah. I mean, I hate to say it. So at the time, it probably made sense from a studio perspective. You know, they have a list of 10 actors or something, and they think of Batman as this physical character, has a lot of physicality, he has to fight. So it made sense because he's a martial artist, kind of. And so that doesn't surprise me. And people forget, everyone used to get really excited about Steven Seagal movies until like the 4th one came out and it was Hard to Kill, which was sort of ridiculous. So that doesn't surprise me. But yes, you got to go back and remember that people that were once in favor or not in favor. Hollywood is a fickle mistress, and you just never know when an actor or an actress who was hot one decade, 20 years later isn't so hot. And now we look at him now. Was he a cop on a reality show?
Yeah, he's got some kind of reality show of his own now.
And now, you know, he weighs 300 pounds or something, and he can barely move. If he gets his hands up like this, it's a good day. And I think we forget that. But if you go back and you watch, if you're an action fan, watch Hard to Kill. He was a pretty charismatic personality, but I don't think Tim Burton ever really considered him. I'm sure.
Well, I doubt Burton considered him.
Sam Hamm said that, you know, Warner Brothers was into him, and they were. I mean, so anybody I'm sure they talked about Clint Eastwood being Batman at one time because he's been a part of the Warner stable forever. And who knows?
But hey, listen, when you mentioned he was a martial artist, sort of, like, to be legit, there is a fighter that a lot of people consider maybe the greatest pound-for-pound fighter, combat sport artist of all time. That's Anderson Silva. He was like middleweight champion of the UFC forever. Anderson the Spider Silva, there was this aura of invincibility. And he even went and got training from Steven Seagal. Like, Steven Seagal would actually be ringside with him, looking as stupid as he's like... He would just be there with Anderson, would give him his big hug before he would go in to the thing. And I remember there's this one fight where Anderson Silva was fighting Vitor Belfort, who was this legendary killer in UFC. And Anderson Silva delivered one of the best knockouts ever with this straight up video game style, straight up the middle front kick to the face that just dropped him like a sack of potatoes. And I'll never forget this. They were interviewing Steven Seagal afterwards, and Steven Seagal said, "Yes, that was me. Anderson came to me." And I kid you not, this is exact. Anderson came to me and said, "Steven, show me the killer shit." And I taught him this technique. It was a front kick. I mean, it was a beautiful front kick, but it was a front kick. But anyway, so there is all that. Yeah, to me, would have been a complete disaster.
Or I have another perspective.
All right.
What if it would have changed the trajectory of Steven Seagal's career? Because he got trapped doing these 3-word movies where he's supposed to act like this. And so as an actor, just like you see some of these young kid Disney stars, that everything's going like this. And they think that that's the way they're supposed to act. Had Steven Seagal been cast at that point in his career when he was really hot and everybody was, drinking the Seagal juice. Okay, that sounded really weird. Sorry, that sounded really bad.
Hashtag drinking the Seagal juice.
That's going to be the comment section for days.
Yep, that's not going anywhere.
You're welcome. But back when he was at his peak popularity, had he been cast as Batman and had he gotten an on-set coach and they'd given him acting classes and really honed him in, and he learned the art of subtlety and the art of stillness, and people had seen him do that, perhaps all of a sudden he would have changed the trajectory of his own career, and he wouldn't have become the caricature that he is now. That's also another possibility.
Yeah, I mean, look, if he was suddenly put into a position where, listen, Steven, you can't just be deadpan. Now you have to act. Maybe it would have changed the trajectory of his career.
The opposite. I mean, look at what happened for Ryan Reynolds when he did Blade 3. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, he was not an action star. And then he did he did Blade 3, and he popped out all those muscles, and he was shirtless and oiled up, and, all of a sudden.
How many times have you seen that movie?
By the way, that's all
once
Canadians.
Or twice.
I just want to let you go. That's all male Canadians. We all have that inherent gene, just so you know. Ryan's not the only one.
I've seen you shirtless, John. I know. I know.
Drink the Segal juice. All right, guys, listen. What do you guys think about all this? How do you think history would have been different if a Steven Seagal had actually ended up being Batman instead of Michael Keaton? Jump down in the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, with that down, let's move on to main topic number 3. And our third main topic today comes to us from Avi Starr, who writes, "Hey, movie team. I'm known as movies. I know as movies, they're really just empty calories, but I love me some Fast and Furious movies. Sorry, Rob, I'm a hashtag Han had it coming guy." Well done, Avi, well done. Just saw they've officially started shooting Fast 9. 9! Very few movie franchises make it this long. Can you put into perspective how big of a deal this is and the way the series has influenced the industry? All right, thanks a lot for that, Avi. And you're right, I think there are many things in life, let alone just in the movie world, that we just take for granted. We've all known Fast 9 is coming. Yeah, Fast 9 is coming. Fast 9, Fast 9. But then Vin Diesel puts out this little social media video with him and I think it was Michelle Rodriguez. And it's just them. They have just now officially completed shooting day 1. The Fast 9 is now in production. It's shooting. So it's a reality. Yeah, on a farm apparently. We call it the tangibilization of the reality that the movie's actually in motion now. But
it's all tractors.
It's just, now they're racing tractors to space. So one of the things, though, that really kind of caught me was when Vin Diesel and Michelle Rodriguez just kept saying, 9, because Diesel's like, hey, we started shooting Fast 9. She's like, 9. And it's really when she says that it breaks you out of that taking it for granted thing for a minute. It's like, wait a minute, it's true. This is going to be the 9th, 10th if you want to count Hobbs and Shaw, which is all in the same universe. So let's say 10. It's Fast and Furious 9, but really it's the 10th film in the franchise. This is crazy. Because you're getting into the realm of the Harry Potter universe. You're getting into the realm of the Star Wars universe. You're getting into the realm of the Marvel MCU. You're getting into the territory of James. Now, James Bond is like 25, but you know what I'm saying? You're getting into those conversations with film franchises that have like 9 or 10 films in them. They just keep completely going. And I want to suggest this, Rob. When I think about the longevity of Fast and Furious, I think about its adaptability. Because Fast and the Furious, I'm going to tell you straight up, and I'm not embarrassed to tell you this. The first Fast and Furious movie, I think, is a tragedy. It is a blatant ripoff of Point Break, of the Keanu Reeves film Point Break. Just plot point by plot point by plot point. It's a complete ripoff of Point Break. That said, they did get an audience because a lot of people were into cars and they did that right, and they did it a certain way. As the series progressed, it started to figure out its own identity, and it started to change. And you really saw that once we got into Fast 4. Once we got into Fast 4, you saw this franchise start to kind of embrace this identity of ridiculous, ball-to-the-walls, bonkers action with the most ludicrous and silly things, and we're going to embrace it, and we're going to own it, and we're going to bring in characters that support that. They brought in Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, all that kind of stuff, and it took off. It becoming one of the franchises that has members in the $1 billion club at this point. So there's all that. As far as thinking in terms of its place in Hollywood history, look, when you've got an action franchise that has done it the way the Fast and Furious franchise has done it, with the success, as we mentioned, it's got several members in the $1 billion club, with the success that it's had, you know that it's had an impact both on directors and the boardroom in a lot of movie studios going, well, these are some of the things we need to glean from this and move on. And as silly as it sounds, and you're right, I love the way you describe these movies, empty calorie movies. They are in many ways empty calorie movies. But you know what? So is a delicious bowl of vanilla ice cream. And I will rip your arm off if you try to come between me and a delicious bowl of vanilla ice cream. And that's kind of the Fast and the Furious franchise. And you really do have to take a moment, Rob, I think, and appreciate really where it is, because I think a lot of people are like me, Rob. I think we just took it for granted that it just keeps going and going and going. Not just keeps going, succeeds and succeeds and succeeds. And I think it's pretty impressive. Anyway, you're looking at this whole benchmark now, 9th in the proper franchise, 10th overall. Like, how do you respond to something like that?
Well, you know I have a great love of this franchise.
Yes.
And a lot of people have taken me to task for this. Why do you love this franchise, Rob? You're so erudite in your tastes. And I'm like, look, man, this is a franchise that, first of all, another thing that people don't talk about this franchise, at least talk enough about it, is the multi-ethnic makeup of the cast.
Yes. Before it was cool to do it.
Before it was cool to do it, you have strong female characters. You have, really, it was a look at LA's street culture. You know, and you had your Asian gangs, your Hispanic gangs. You had the white outsider who's really an undercover cop who falls in love with, you know, the sister of the leader. I mean, it's soap opera 101 that is dealing with the street level world that existed. And then look, the masterstroke that is Fast Five, the Citizen Kane of the Fast and Furious franchise. When you watch Fast Five, one of the greatest action films ever made, of course, silly, which is coming on the heels of the most maligned and underrated film ever made, which is, of course, Fast and Furious 3, Tokyo Drift, which has nothing to do with the first two movies. They reinvent the franchise. They introduce Han Solo, Sun Kang's Han Solo, greatest hair of any male actor who's ever lived, who, of course, dies at the end of the movie. But then they turn Fast 4, 5, and 6 into prequels so Justin Lin can bring Han back. Come on. This franchise is up there with the Godfather saga as one of the great American film franchises. And if you don't recognize that, we had Vin Diesel moving a torpedo that was going across the ice in Fate of the Furious, and he like pushes it aside and survives a small nuclear explosion. I mean, this franchise is going to be recognized when we are burned to a cinder in the future, and all that remains are some weird like disc of all of humanity's achievements that aliens are going to look at. They're going to stop and they're going to marvel at the Fast and the Furious franchise in thousands of millennia, and we are all the better for it, John.
Rob, I asked you to put it into perspective for us, and you put it into perspective for us. Thank you for that.
And they're all on 4K disc
and
now.
They're all on 4K disc. Aaron, I mean, look, this thing has been around. This franchise has been around most of a lot of people's lives, maybe all of some people's lives.
Sure.
It's got an incredible track record and all that kind of stuff. When you look at, let's start using the word, when you start looking at the legacy of the Fast and Furious franchise, what do you think about, and what does hitting like Fast 9 kind of mean to you?
Well, I think that I would lean more towards it falls into the Friday the 13th category versus Godfather, but you know, whatever you want to connect it to. I actually worked with Vin Diesel 10 years ago.
Really?
Yeah, on a webisode series called The Ropes, which I think is out there in the universe somewhere. And I remember talking to him at length about the process of the whole Fast and the Furious empire. And one of the things that I think about when I hear about these films that, empty calories, but by the way, vanilla ice cream, dairy, calcium, just going to put it out there. When I think about these big tentpole movies, they keep the lights on for the studio.
Yes.
So when I see that Universal is doing a 9th Fast and the Furious, I go, that's awesome, because the money that they make from that, they will be able to use to make smaller films.
Yes.
So for all the people that go, oh my God, I don't want to, why are they making this kind of movie? They should make more highbrow, whatever. They are only able to make more independent, like the independent arm films, or films that are more Oscar buzzworthy, or the films that you want to really get into and sink your teeth into that are human stories. They're only able to tell those stories, which don't usually make a lot of money because they balance it out with the franchises like Fast 9s or Fast and the Furious. So I'm thrilled. It means that there's just more opportunities for more films to get made by Universal.
That's such a great observation about that. And a lot of people, I think, miss those cues because you're right. We hear a lot of people complaining about whether it's the big Marvel or the big DC movies or whatever. So blah, 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 but that's what's bringing in the money right now.
That's what keeps the lights on.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Well, listen, guys, what do you think about that? Like now that we're up to like the 10th film in this franchise, is it fair to start talking about legacy? Is it fair to start talking about the legacy and the impact that this empty calories kind of movie has actually had on the industry? I want to know what you guys think about that. Jump down to the comment section below and leave us your thoughts. All right, with that down, let's move on to the fourth main topic today. And our fourth main topic today comes to us from Darren Treese, who writes, I am a 34-year-old man, and if I could still legally be adopted, I'd want to be adopted by Samuel L. Jackson. Did you guys see the major gaffe the marketing team on Spider-Man Far From Home made on the images where they have Nick Fury's eye patch on different eyes? And did you see Jackson's response to it? Classic. All right, so for those who don't know what Darren might be talking about, of course, Nick Fury, his most iconic thing about him physically is, of course, the eye patch. That's been, regardless when we had white Nick Fury or Samuel L. Jackson Nick Fury, that's always been a hallmark staple of Nick Fury. Well, apparently, Nick Fury, played by Samuel Jackson, Sam Jackson was not so happy. When he put on his own Instagram this, he came across a couple of posters marketing the movie. And this is when he saw 2 different Spider-Man Far From Home billboards with the patches on different eyes. To which Samuel Jackson put this out, and then he wrote underneath it, this was his caption, what the actual fuck is going on here? Hashtag heads gonna roll. Hashtag left eye motherfucker. I can't even pretend to do it in Samuel Jackson's voice. So he goes out and sees this. Now, Rob, here's the thing, guys. Erin, and you may not know this, but when we were talking about Game of Thrones before, there was this big gaffe on Game of Thrones.
The water bottle.
Where 2 of them, actually, the water bottle on set and the Starbucks coffee cup.
Oh, yeah.
On
Daenerys.
set.
Liked
Right?
her lattes.
Yes, liked her lattes. That's right. And so we got into about, hey, look, it's not really a surprise that it happens. Really more, it can be considered a surprise that it doesn't happen more often.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said for that. But when you're talking, especially in the hubbub and the action and everything that's going on a live set, a lot of things going on. By the way, I love this image that Ray made. When you're talking about the action and all this stuff that's going on a set, and there's hundreds of moving pieces, thousands of moving pieces, hundreds of moving people, things like that. But then you come to something like this about a piece of marketing that you sit down with. They put a lot of money into marketing these things. You go over it with a fine-tooth comb. It goes through several different sets of eyes for approvals and blah, blah, blah. And you look at something like this, like, Rob, like on a set, time is money. You're moving quick. You got to get the shot done because then you got to move on and get set ready for the next shot, blah, blah, blah. Okay, but this sort of thing, is there any excuse? I mean, look, I don't want to blow this out of proportion and say, well, this is going to cost them hundreds of millions of dollars. Not at all. Obviously, not in the least. But Rob, really, when you're looking at a mistake like this, is there any excuse for something as blatant as this?
Well, look, I mean, the art of the movie poster has been dead for a long time. And all of this is just a Photoshop mistake. And to be honest, nobody was paying attention. Nobody who's doing this, you know,
it's not like it was one guy. It had to be several layers of people giving
and
approval.
Nobody knows.
Yeah.
The last thing anybody's paying attention, they're looking at the image, they're looking at, because they flip actors all the time.
Well, yeah.
I mean, the fact that Sam Jackson happens to have an eye patch over his eye, they weren't even thinking that. I guarantee you, they're just thinking about the composition of this. It looks like a billboard, or maybe it's the side of a bus.
It looks like it's 2 different ads placed side by side,
right?
On a walkway or on a bus thing.
Yeah, something like that. And whoever did it was like, oh, that looks good. They flip actors around. They flip to make them look however they want all the time. So it's not something, most actors don't have eye patches. Right. And so somebody just did what they always do, not thinking that the actor would get upset or that it's a thing. And I think it was just not even thought about. And Sam Jackson saw it, and look, I think he's making a little bit more of it He knows too. He's had his image flipped on posters before. All actors know their good sides, and they're like, "Why did you have to flip my image like that? The picture was taken one way. Why'd you have to do that?" And so it's not unusual, but because there's an eye patch, I think it's hilarious, and in a way, it's kind of great viral marketing. Mm-hmm. Sam Jackson's basically saying, if you didn't know that Spider-Man Far From Home was opening on Tuesday, a week from today, let's do some fun viral marketing that everybody's going to love that only I, Sam Jackson, can do. Mission accomplished, sir. I salute you, and Sony should be kissing the feet that you walk on.
You might have a point there that maybe this was all by design. I mean, it's a possibility it's all by design. Erin, one of the most, and truly this is true because I've said this before on this show, even when you're not here. Some of the most fun, like individual, a lot of movies do these individual character posters and things for the movie. Mm-hmm. I thought the bitch slap stuff was so fun because it was sexy, but it was fun and it kind of communicated the energy and stuff like that. So that was a lot of creative work going into that, a lot of Photoshop work, like creating the scenes and everything. But can you think of another time that either on a movie like your own or something you've worked on or even something out there where you can think of another big kind of marketing mistake like this? And beyond that, is it really a big deal? Like, I'm kind of feeling it's a big deal. Rob is raising some really good points about maybe it's even by design. Where do you fall in all that?
Well, I mean, yes, obviously it's a photo that was flipped, which is kind of, I think, lazy. I mean, I've done these photo shoots that you do for marketing, and they are hours and hours, and it's an entire day, and it's a whole setup. They have thousands of images to choose from. Thousands. So to flip the photo like that, to go, we've chosen the one photo, and instead of choosing another photo where the eye patch is on the right side and it makes sense for the composition, we're just going to flip the photo. That's just laziness on the part of the marketing team. I don't think that Sam Jackson was necessarily mad about it as much as he was like, seriously, guys. I think that he's the kind that, and also you're absolutely right, Rob. He calls it out because it's great viral marketing.
He's having fun with it.
He's having so much fun, and I think it's fantastic. I do remember one case, and I don't remember if this was for Pirates of the Caribbean or if it was for another show, but when Keira Knightley saw that her breasts were largely augmented for the poster.
I remember this. Yes.
I do remember what movie it was. I don't remember, and she said, "Absolutely not. I am proud of my A cups, and you're gonna take those things down because I'm not gonna be a part of you marketing my body to look a way that it doesn't. I think it's unhealthy and it's unrealistic." That really stuck out in my mind of an actress, putting her foot down and using her ability as the star of the film to say, no, you're not gonna sexualize me in that way. That's not what we're doing here in this movie. So I do remember that. But as far as, I will say this also, when it comes to coffee cups on set and those sorts of things, it's not, it is a lot of the hubbub of, the busy what's going on, but also it's the fact that a lot of times on something like that with that big budget, you have multiple cameras shooting at one time. Yeah. And a lot of times you'll be on set and you've got your coffee cup down here and you're like, oh, is this okay? Is this in the shot? And the first AD's running so many things and they go, oh no, this is just a tight on you. We're just tight on you. When they say tight on you, you assume anything from the waist down. You can go pantsless. It doesn't matter. You can have your cell phone sitting in your lap. But if there's one camera that somebody didn't realize is actually getting a wide shot, that who knows? But I think that those are the situations. Is a lot of times the actor is told, "Oh no, we're right here." So that's how you have a coffee cup in front of you.
I want to speak to something. You reminded me of something. An actor like Sam Jackson has probably likeness approval.
Oh yeah.
So when he sent a photograph or he sent an image that he signs off on, that's the photograph he signed off on. Same with like Keira Knightley. You don't alter that photograph. That's the whole point. That's why an agent gets you likeness approval in your contract. Because remember, kids, you don't get what you deserve. You get what you negotiate.
That's
it ain't
true.
Show friends,
you don't
show
get
business.
You don't get what you don't ask for.
No, right. and so when an image that an actor has signed off on is altered, that can be problematic, and that also shows a certain lack of maybe understanding where the marketing people are doing something real quick but they're not remembering that these images have been approved, they've gone through studio approvals, they've gone through contract approvals, and you shouldn't alter them.
Because also at the end of the day, no one's going to be saying, "Did you know that Joe Bob Smith over there at marketing messed up that?" They're going to go, "Did you see that Sam Jackson is wearing his eye patch on the wrong eye?"
Yeah.
They're automatically going to think it's the actor that for that photo shoot wore his eye patch on the wrong eye, and that Sam Jackson doesn't know what eye his patch goes on. There will be people who actually think that.
You're absolutely right.
Well, listen, guys. I think you two have kind of moved me off my position a little bit. Maybe it's not as bad as I thought. But listen, ultimately, the only thing that matters here, guys, is what do you think about this? Do you think this is a big deal to watch? Do you think maybe this was all planned as a part of more marketing push? Do you think it's something that everybody, including Samuel L. Jackson, maybe just missed, or do you think it was someone's going to have their heads roll for this? What do you think about it? Jump down to the comment section below and leave us your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to our fifth and final main topic today. And our fifth and final main topic today comes to us from Gautam Cardhade, who writes, "Hi, John. I just read that Christopher Nolan's new movie, Tenet, has a reported budget of nearly $220 million, making it his most expensive film behind The Dark Knight Rises. Now, I am a huge Nolan fan and know that all of his films make a lot of money, but don't you think $220 million is a little too much for a completely original concept with actors who are not known to be big box office draws? Do you think Warner Brothers is taking a bit of a risk with this one, or is it going to pay off?" For those of you who do not know, Christopher Nolan has a new movie coming out next year called Tenet, which the studio is only described as being an innovative, high action kind of movie. We know Washington is in there, Denzel Washington's son. He was just amazing in BlacKkKlansman. And we know that Batman, Robert Pattinson, is also starring in the film as well. And that's really all we know until we found out that it's got a $220. By the way, IndieWire is actually reporting a $225 million budget on this thing. That is astronomical. That is absolutely astronomical, especially for a movie that doesn't have the word Batman in the title. Mm-hmm. Maybe you got Batman in the film with Robert Pattinson, but it doesn't have Batman in the title. And that seems like a lot. Is it a huge risk? There's no doubt. Because when you're starting with a movie that has like a $220 million, your minimum, absolute bare bones minimum, you need to make to break even is in the $620 million range. Just to break even. That's a huge amount of money. And is it a risk? Yes. However, we all got to take risks. The question is, do you take calculated risks? Do you look at the information you have available and say, yeah, it's a risk, but are there things here to suggest that this might be a risk worth taking? And I would suggest, if you look at the track record of Christopher Nolan, even outside of the Batman films, there's enough, let's call anecdotal evidence to suggest that, yeah, this is probably worth a risk. Let's look at the last three movies that Christopher Nolan has done without the word Batman in the title, okay? Going back, he did Inception. $828 million on a $160 million budget. That was an original film, didn't have Batman in it, and it was all that kind of stuff, made a huge amount of money. Then he went even edgier, and he did Interstellar. $667 million on a $165 million budget, made big money for the studio, again, on a completely original film. Yes, it had Matthew McConaughey right in the midst in the powerful parts of the McConaissance and all that kind of stuff. I get that, but for him to deliver on that is crazy. Then Dunkirk. This is a movie that shouldn't have made more than $250 million worldwide. No way. Like a non-character focused, by any stretch of the imagination, somber kind of World War II epic about something that's not even known as one of North America's big, heroic events in the second, like Dunkirk. Made $526 million on a $100 million film. Now, outside of these numbers, the risk and the calculation of this risk has to extend to the man himself, to Christopher Nolan. Warner Brothers has made no secret over the years that they intend to be forever in the Christopher Nolan business. I think an argument could be made that while I believe Steven Spielberg is the greatest filmmaker of all time, there's an argument to be made that right now, Christopher Nolan's the man. That right now, it's Christopher Nolan's world and we all just live in it. So if Christopher Nolan comes to you and you're a studio and says, hey, look, here's my movie and it's a great looking movie. and I want $225 million. And you look at the man, you look at the track record, you look at what has our financial investments done with him before, and you're left with this question. $225 million is a risk, but is this worth the risk when you look at the man and the track record? And to me, Rob, I look at this and, from a business school point of view and from a filmmaking auteur point of view, I think the best answer is duh. Yes, this is a risk worth taking. If it was anybody else, maybe not. But this is Christopher Nolan. He has delivered time and time and time again. And maybe this movie loses a little bit of money. Maybe this movie makes $590 million, comes up a little short. That doesn't matter. It's still worth the risk, I think. You go all in on Christopher Nolan all day, every day. Anyway, Rob, you're hearing about this. What do you think?
I'm with you, all in. I mean, the movie Inception, Warner Brothers marketing was convinced the movie was going to bomb. And they take credit for Inception's success, which is utterly ridiculous.
Of course they do.
I went and saw that movie 8 times in the theater.
Wow.
Because there's seldom times you go to the cinema and you see things you haven't seen before. That movie was, first of all, you had an incredible cast. Tom Hardy was great. Leonardo DiCaprio was great. I loved that film. And groundbreaking visuals. The fact that Christopher Nolan is all about practical photography. They built those hallway sets on gimbals so they could spin them around and people could walk on the ceiling. Joseph Gordon-Levitt's great in the film. And he gave us something we hadn't seen before. He literally gave us something that had never been seen on film before. And I think he's going to out Inception with Tenet. And I'm sure whatever he presented to Warner Brothers, people were looking at it going, I don't even know how you can do this. Can you do this? And he's like, I can do this. And they're like, oh, well, here's a check. I'm sure that's exactly what happened. And we don't have visionary filmmakers like this. These franchise properties, we were just talking about Fast and the Furious, these are marketing decisions. How many filmmakers do we have in the world today that can come up with startling original visions that we've never seen before, are going to go push the boundaries of the technology, and are going to go push the boundaries of what actors are expected to do, and push the boundaries of what studios are going to release these days. Everything we're getting is pre-packaged and pre-marketed. The fact that we have a Christopher Nolan that can do this, it's a wonderful thing, and it's what Hollywood exists for, and there's probably only one of him now. Maybe James Cameron is 2.
Denis Villeneuve,
but even him, he doesn't have the track record in terms of box office.
That's true, yeah.
Arrival
That's
and Blade
really
Runner
good,
2049, yeah. Fantastic science fiction films. I hope Dune is a huge success. I can't wait. But Christopher Nolan, man, this guy's got the keys to the kingdom. Let's hope he uses them, and we'll all be better human beings for it.
Erin, you're hearing about, look, there's no way around it. Christopher Nolan's name or not.
Yeah.
A $225 million sort of thing. That's make or break kind of money to a lot of studios as well. So you hear this, you're the head of Warner Brothers right now, okay?
Oh, okay, great.
And you get approached, Christopher Nolan says, this is the film I want to do. He paints the picture of the film for you. Let's go on the assumption that you like the picture of the film. And he says, here's the price tag. Do you go with it? Do you axe it? Do you pause? Or do you jump both feet out? Like, what's your reaction to that if you're the head of that studio?
Well, obviously, I think any smart business person, before writing any check for $2 million or $225 million, there's always a pause. Where is this money going? You know, what's the breakdown of this? But also, I agree with Robert. I mean, as soon as you were talking about it, my first thought went to Inception. And there's nothing that I can say that Robert hasn't already said about the groundbreaking, visionary, la la la. But when you have an opportunity to push those boundaries, the money is all the line of how much money is too much money to spend is always going to be pushed. And right now we're saying, is $225 million too much? But I guarantee you, after this movie is made and it has the success that Inception had, which, what was the word that you used? You said it was about the film. Like, what is it called?
I can't remember.
Sorry, it was something like, it was there was a term that you used for it, that it was going to be a different type of movie. Sorry, I can't remember exactly what you said. I had it in my brain. But I really do think that we're just continuing to move the line of what is acceptable, what is an acceptable amount of money to spend. At some point, $100 million was insane to spend on a movie, but we just keep moving that needle. And as long as the film is successful, then the needle will continue to move. And all I have to say is, I just want to visit that set and go to craft services. I mean, what are they serving for lunch? That's what I want to know.
Whatever Christopher Nolan wants.
Absolutely. And you know what? But again, it goes back to my previous statement. Movies like Fast and the Furious, those empty calorie movies, allow a little bit of I don't necessarily know if this is the response to that, but it does give a little bit more cushion.
Right. When you get these big films, it gives them a little bit more leeway for that.
So they can take these risks. And I think you guys are on the money. Christopher Nolan, that's a risk I would take.
Well, listen, guys, the question is, what would you do? You're the head of the studio. Christopher Nolan comes, you love him, but he wants $225 million. Is that something you jump on, or is that something you go, whoa, let's make this a little bit more financially responsibly? I want to hear what you would do with that. Jump down in the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down out of the way, this is normally the part of the show where we would go over and do the movie news feed, but fact checker Jonathan is on vacation this week with his family, so no movie news feed this week. So we're just going to go ahead and jump right into the live questions. Now, Erin Cummings is here, and she's got important Hollywood business to do in and around town. She's an actress. So what I want to do here quick first is a couple of you guys I noticed just sent in some live questions specifically for Erin. So I want to go and take those while she's still here. So first question I'm going to ask here. This one is for you, Erin. Comes us from Murray Reich, who writes, "Hey, Erin, will you be again on The Flash? You were great." For those of you who don't know, Erin was what episode was it? Like 2 or 3? This season?
It was episode 2, I believe. Yes, it was episode 2, right at the beginning of the season.
Right. And what was the name of your block?
Block, because
you played the
threw
villain
big
Block.
Blocks of compressed air particles.
So Murray's asking, are you going to be on The Flash again?
Gosh, I really hope so. I really do. And I have to say, that was such a cool experience. I ran into the writer on set, and she said, "Oh man, it's such a shame that you die on this episode." And I go, "What? I do not die." And immediately Everyday Craft Services scattered. They were like, writer and actress talking about her death scene. We don't want to be here for this. And I said, "No, I'm telling you, I read the end of the episode, and he specifically says, get her to a hospital." And she said, "Oh my God, that's right. We had your character dying in the first 5 or 6 versions of the script. And then once you were cast, we had you live so that we could maybe bring you back." And so all season I was like, come on, Flash, because I had such a great time shooting that. Everyone was so wonderful. Vancouver's gorgeous and beautiful. I really hope so. So, hey man, if you know somebody, Murray, give them a call. It's not my decision. I'm all in.
All right, next one came to us from Dervunderbar, who's writing, "Welcome, Erin. Good to see you."
Thank you.
So Dervunderbar writes that. And this one is in for you as well. This one comes from Adam Douglas, who writes, "Erin, did you have any scenes with Pamela Reed?" I'm assuming that's about the new movie Language thing, because I think you and Pamela Reed are both in that film.
I did not. I wish that I did, but I did not, and now I have to go look up Pamela Reed, because I'm sorry, I'm blanking on who she is, but I'm sure she's amazing, and I will have to look her up and find out maybe how our paths may have crossed.
So apparently, I'm now looking up.
I'm please
looking
let
at
me
the
know.
Language Arts,
because I
IMDb.
also sometimes can be a space cadet when it comes to names, so she might be my best friend, and I just
you play Rita in the movie. And
right.
Pamela Reed is listed right underneath you in the IMDb listing, and she's listed as Sister Georgia.
Oh, okay. So no, I did not work with Pamela. No. I know who her character is, and our paths did not cross. No.
Okay, so you guys didn't have any scenes together?
No.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Yes. All right. Now, with that down, guys, so now, Erin, you're free to go whenever you need to.
Okay, well, can I want to share something as well as...
Yes, please do.
In addition to All Rise premiering on CBS on Mondays this fall on September 23rd.
Are we going to talk about your podcast?
At 9 p.m. Well, we are going to talk about my podcast, which is called Kappa Kappa Cancer, Your Guide to the Sorority You Never Wanted to Join. And it is, and John is actually my first guest in my first episode where we talk about stupid shit people say when you have cancer.
Because not everybody here knows you're a cancer survivor.
I am a cancer survivor, a cancer thriver, a cancer warrior, as it's tattooed on my arm. Oh, and also, not everybody knows, but I have Ripley tattooed on my right ribs and Sarah tattooed on my left ribs, because
That's funny,
I named
we've seen each other shirtless before, and I don't
all
remember
the time.
that at all.
Because I named my breasts after Ellen Ripley and Sarah Connor.
I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
No,
I feel like you would have been the first person I would have told.
I swear to God, I did not know that. That's
yes,
the most
when I
awesome
got my
thing
double
ever.
mastectomy, I said, these these girls have been through a lot. They need some badass girl names, so I named them Ripley and Sarah. But also awesome. Another thing, for any of the actors or people that are interested in acting out there, today my friend Alicia Oxy's podcast, That One Audition, just aired my episode where she interviews me. It was a live episode, the live taping that we did last week, and we start the entire episode with me describing in very specific detail how to audition for a sex scene and how to do a sex scene and not get #MeToo'd. So
also known as drinking the Segal juice.
Drinking the Segal juice. Oh my gosh, that's gonna be So if wherever you listen to podcasts, check out That One Audition with my friend Alicia Oxy, and also if you need to find me, want to ask me any questions, I'm at Erin L. Cummings. All the places where you might want to find anybody.
Well, Erin,
thank you, John.
Always awesome to have. Hopefully, you'll come back more often.
I will come back as often as you ask me. And by the way, I did go see my required movies, and you didn't even ask me about them.
Well, okay, time out here. Look, I was sitting around playing Dungeons and Dragons on Sunday night.
Hold on, but backstory is, so first of all, when I came on the show last time, you said to me, listen, if you're going to be on my show, you got to watch all the MCU movies.
Right. And you had already seen a bunch.
I'd seen a bunch, but you gave me a required watching list, and some I came over here and watched with you and Ann, and we went to see some movies together at the theater. And so when you said, can you be on the show on Tuesday? I said, absolutely. What are some movies that I need to have seen in order to be on the show on Tuesday? And you said Toy Story 4, which I absolutely loved. And you said Avengers Endgame, which I actually had not seen. I was like the only person.
Because you've been shooting. You've been busy.
I've been a busy lady, So, but I hadn't seen it. And so when you said you have to go watch it, I said, all right, Sunday, I'm going to go watch it. And then...
Okay, so I wasn't going to bring this up.
I feel like... Here's the thing.
I wasn't going to bring this up because...
I'm not embarrassed by it. Okay, I'm not embarrassed by it. I blame the studio. I blame them.
I wish I had my phone here so I could actually read. But I'm sitting down Sunday night. You got to get this, guys.
I have my phone. Do you want me to bring up our text?
Please bring up the text. Because I'm sitting down Sunday night playing Dungeons and Dragons with my D&D group, right? So Ann's there and whatever. And all of a sudden, my pocket buzzes. So I was like, oh. So I reach in, I pull it out, and it's a text from Erin. I'm like, oh, what's Erin up to? And she basically tells me, okay, so I went to go see.
Do you want me to read it?
Oh, yes, please read. Please read the text message that you sent to me because I don't.
So I sent this at 9:40. The film started at 6:30. So with the, previews, the film probably started at 6:45. So, ... Avengers Endgame was amazing. But if you ever ask me to see a 3-hour movie in the theater instead of waiting for it to stream again, I'm going to have to decline. I peed my pants, and I wish I was kidding. I ran to the bathroom as soon as the credits started, couldn't find the bathroom, and then about 10 paces away from the bathroom, it just started coming, and I couldn't stop it. I am now sitting in the theater waiting for the after the credits bit that always happens, and my pants are wet. And his response to me was, I love you 3,000.
It's true. It's true.
Erin Cummings peed her pants because there needs to be an intermission. Even a play that's 3 hours has an intermission. And I suggest if you're going to have a 3-hour movie, have a little thing in the middle where you say, we're going to show a 6-minute short that you will also air online. So if you don't want to sit in the movie theater and watch it, we'll air it online. So now's your chance to go to the bathroom and then come right back. Because with a movie like Avengers, there's no chance to go to the bathroom. Every moment is an, oh my God, I have to watch this moment.
And it's true. And I just remember I started laughing myself sick. I thought that was the rest. So, and it's especially funny because Rob and I were having, as we were getting close to Endgame, we had several debates on the show about, should we be getting, because a lot of countries around the world just have intermissions with every movie.
Yeah.
And we started having these debates about whether movies that are like, say, maybe clock in at 3 hours or more, maybe they should have one. So here we go. We have a living example.
Like Giant is one of my favorite films. And it's Oh, I think it's 3 hours plus, but I will sit through it because I can watch it in my living room. I will never watch a 3-hour movie in the theater again. My bladder is just not built that way. My mom's bladder was the same way.
You know what you need? You need that little app Pee Break that tells you with all the new movies out, it actually gives you time frames about when's a good safe time for you to run to the bathroom.
My mind is exploding.
Yes,
but I do want to say one thing from an actor's perspective about Avengers Endgame. I did take a note, and I was like, this is something that I do want to say on the show if we have a moment.
Yeah, go ahead.
So when I first at the beginning of the movie, I was a little confused because I was like, I'm sorry, didn't these people just have like the biggest trauma of their lives just happen? And they're all just kind of checked out. Nobody's really seeming to be that upset about it. And I was a little thrown in the beginning. And I said, maybe it's the fact that it's the last one and the actors are just over it at this point. But I don't know. Very quickly, what I realized is that it was a beautiful moment of actors, of a director having the actors play the numbness that people often feel after a huge trauma. And that's what I felt was I realized very quickly that it wasn't apathy. It was that dull, numb feeling of, did this actually happen? And as the film progresses and gets to these later moments that are so, so painful and beautiful, the emotion came so freely that I thought, what a genius move to have them. Because then when I was in the theater and I was crying, I felt a real emotional payoff. I thought that was brilliant on the part of the director. And also the casting of Joe Biden as the old Captain America, brilliant. Brilliant. I was like, wow, he started that campaigning early. I really like that.
Now everybody's going to get him for president on that. Hey, listen, just one more time, Erin, where can people find you on social media?
At Erin L. Cummings, or hanging out shirtless with John Campea at his house. And Anne, obviously.
And Anne.
Yeah, I don't want any of Anne's like fan club. I'll have the Anne's beehive on me.
They know that's how we roll. All right, listen, thanks so much for being here, Erin, and we can't wait to have you back here
Robert.
shortly.
Oh, it's great to be here with you. Fantastic.
You always kept me on my voice game.
All right, so as Erin takes this opportunity to slip out, guys, let's now move on to the rest of your live questions. And I got Robert here for another half hour, so let's start flying through these things. And we're going to start things off here with this. DC Patience. Bye, Erin. DC Patience writes, Toy Story number 1 through 4, binge successful. Woody redeemed, but still a nut job. Buzz is awesome friend. Lotso hugging bear is a mob boss. Forky is the best. Forky was great. Listen, I don't want to get into a full sort of, another spoiler discussion about the whole thing here, but I absolutely adore this movie. I loved it, and I'm glad you did too, and I'm glad you're able to get through that whole thing there as well. All right, next up is Jeff Crow, who writes, Tucker and Dale versus Evil 2. Yes, please. Any updates? Well, not really. See, the thing about, first of all, Tucker and Dale versus Evil, I believe it's a 2011 film. Absolutely adore it. Like, I love that film. I think that movie is fantastic. There was talk a couple years ago about a sequel. Then earlier this year, some stuff came up about them possibly doing another one. But what one of the stars, Tyler, I believe, the guy who plays Dale, I believe, was saying that, yeah, we do have something in the works. We do have something coming. However, it may not actually be a movie. Now, he was very vague about all that, whether that means it'll be a Disney Plus thing or a Netflix streaming thing or whatever. Who knows? Rob, did you ever watch Tucker and Dale versus Evil?
I did, and I really liked Tucker and Dale. It was a hoot.
Yeah.
It's horror comedies I'm kind of iffy on, but Tucker and Dale versus Evil cracked me up.
All right, let's move on here. Let's see. Jeff Crow writes, Galaxy's Edge this weekend, Burbank on Thursday. Enjoy Galaxy's Edge. You no longer have to have a reservation to get in, so go and enjoy. Der Wunderbar writes, I'm about to do you what Limp Bizkit did to music in the late 90s. Deadpool. I don't remember that line. Do you remember that line, Rob?
Vaguely, but I don't remember when it was said or whether it was in Deadpool 1 or 2.
All right, let's move on. You know what, guys? It looks like I'm having a little bit of a display issue with this thing, so I might pull this down for a second. But anyway, I'm Upset writes, I think Sony will announce Spider-Verse slate at SDCC. Maybe it's possible. I mean, we're not really clear where they are on that whole thing about what they're doing. So I don't know. Look, one of the things we know they're going to do a Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse sequel. They have to. The movie won an Academy Award. It was nominated for several. I believe it was the third best movie of the year. It was a financial success for them. You know they're going to move forward with this thing. How much they reveal at SDCC, we'll find out. Chris Feldman writes, has it ever been explained why some Jedi, Obi-Wan, Yoda, vanish when they die, but other Jedi bodies leave behind? Maybe the expanded universe. Well, what they kind of revealed in Star Wars Clone Wars, the animated series, was that it is a learned technique. It's something that Qui-Gon Jinn discovered. And I can't remember if it was a new thing he discovered or whether it was an old ancient thing that he rediscovered, but it's a technique. And at the end of which episode was it? Star Wars episode, I think it might have been Revenge of the Sith. At the end of Revenge of the Sith, yes, it was the end of Revenge of the Sith, Yoda says to Obi-Wan, training I have for you. Like, as you go into exile, training I have for you. And basically, because Yoda discovered what Liam Neeson's character, what Qui-Gon discovered, and that reference, when he says that to Obi-Wan, it was the technique and the art of learning how to become a Force ghost and become one with the Force when you die. So anyway, maybe there's some other stuff and other expanded universe stuff, but none of that's canon anyway. Rob, is that how you understand it, or is there anything else that I'm missing?
Yeah, no, that's kind of how I understood it. I don't know if it is an ancient technique. I would imagine it is, that was rediscovered over the ages, and Qui-Gon. I mean, we didn't. I guess so. You know, I mean, is it canon if we didn't see it on camera? I don't know.
Right, yeah. All right, next one up. Min writes, got back from London last week. Great city. Totally recommend the Harry Potter Warner Brothers studio tour, especially for fans. All sets and props from the films. Hey, listen, it's always fun. Like, I love going to the WB lot and do the tour of the lot. I go to Universal, take the Universal tour all the time. It's always cool when you can go and see that type of stuff, and when you can be in another country and do it, that's awesome. I'm a little bit jealous. I've never been to London, so that sounds amazing. All right, CJ Dunn writes, out of my 15 years serving in the Army, I have seen some pretty crazy / funny names. But coming through the gates this morning, I ran into a soldier with the last name Outlaw. Pretty damn awesome. Every once in a while, you just find some people who have a name that's so indicative. Like, every once in a while, like, I'm a football guy. I like football. And by the way, guys, I'm just going to crank on my air conditioner here just so we can have some cooler air in here. So you might hear a little bit of noise in the background. I apologize for that. But whether it's football guys who have like these ridiculously appropriate last names or whatever, when you come across that, Rob, I'm curious. You ever know anybody in the film business that had like some oddly really appropriate last name for the business?
No, but I did go to summer camp once with a girl whose name was Trina Cocaine.
I'm sorry. Can you say that again?
Trina Cocaine.
Trina Cocaine.
Yeah, it wasn't spelled like cocaine, but that's how it sounded. And by the way, she was beautiful, and I had a mad crush on her. And this was at the Flying Horseshoe Ranch in Cle Elum, Washington.
And so, just so you all know, you guys can all report this accurately. Robert Meyer Burnett loves cocaine. He loves cocaine. Massive crush on cocaine. That is accurate, what I just said. All right. Der Wunderbar writes, I guess it takes some focus to vanish into the Force. You could see that Obi-Wan did that in his last sword fight. Yeah, I mean, so you could sort of see that Obi-Wan was pulling a little bit of he pauses, he puts up a sign. Now, of course, we all assume, which probably was what George Lucas was thinking at the time, that he's just preparing for it, just holds up his lightsaber, prepare it. But now in hindsight, maybe we can look at that and say he was going into some sort of meditative state, getting ready to pass into the Force or something like that. That's a possibility, I guess. McDavid deserves better. Yes, he does. Always got to say that. Love, Death, and Robots is high art in both visual and themes. I usually don't like anthologies, but these vignettes grab you. It makes you ponder life. Rob, I've had a number of people say they really like this Love, Death, and Robots. I thought the trailer looked terrible, to be honest with you. I just thought it looked terrible, so I was never interested and I never watched it. I'm not saying that it is terrible because I never saw it. I'm saying it looked terrible to me. You did watch it though, right?
I did.
What did you think about it?
You know, like all anthologies, it's kind of a mixed bag. What I really liked about it was that it's different animators. You know, you're getting animation styles from all over the world, and it was just a lot of fun to watch. Some stories were better than others. There were some stories that were more realistic, more anime style. Then there's more humorous, more over-the-top animation. For the most part, I really enjoyed it and was very happy to hear they're bringing back a second year of it. Because, you know, it's Tim Miller and David Fincher produced. So it's got a great pedigree, and it's really worth watching. What's great is, you don't have to commit to it. You can watch an episode here, an episode there. Come back to it when you want. Have a short subject before your next favorite movie, and just kind of do that. And I really enjoyed it a lot.
All right, next one up comes to us from a Min who writes, also, I got a chance to see Hamilton for the first time. Was even better than I thought. Loved the show. Now time to catch up on movies I've missed. And listen, yeah, look, we all heard, like, Hamilton is this Broadway show that caught the pop culture by storm, and everybody started talking about it. Last year, Ann and I actually got tickets to go to the Pantages Theater and go watch it. I'm telling you, the hype is real. The hype was real. It's so freaking good and entertaining and fun, but also educational and all that kind of stuff. And what Lin-Manuel Miranda did with that thing is incredible. Rob, did you ever have a chance to go and see this?
I've never seen Hamilton, and I'm dying to see it. I did see the musical of Amélie, though.
I didn't even know there was a musical for Amélie.
Well, there's a reason for that.
Oh, that good.
But I did see it. We went down to the music center and saw it. But yeah, I haven't seen Hamilton, and I'm a big musical fan. I like musical theater. Speaking
of musicals based on movies, we also went to go see School of Rock about 5 or 6 months ago. Not good. So that's one you guys can probably... Oh, but also speaking of movies turned into musicals, then we saw Waitress.
Oh.
Awesome. On par with Hamilton. I loved Waitress. If you guys get a chance to see Waitress, you should absolutely go see Waitress. All right, let's see here. Binium Gaming writes, why ignore disc sales when you calculate if a movie lost money? Simply because of this. It's inconsequential numbers. It really is. I mean, there's this belief out there that a movie can make like $500 million in home video. No, it doesn't. In its heyday, home video sales they equaled a legitimate amount of money at one point, but it hasn't been that way for a long time. Ask any studio person at this point. It really doesn't. So it kind of becomes, while it is a number, I also, Rob, feel like it's fair to say it's kind of an inconsequential number, and that's why it's never really brought up into the conversation. But I don't know, Rob, like how...
Well, DVDs, the money that they were making on DVD was enormous, gigantic. But as we've talked about a lot on this show, the MPAA reported last year that physical media sales between 2014 and 2018 dropped 50%.
Yeah, and it was dropping before that already.
Dropping before that, and last year it dropped 50, and then it dropped 15% from the year before. So physical media is precipitously dropping. It went from like a heyday of $30 billion. It's now $4 billion or something, and it continues to drop. So for the days of movies being saved, even discs or movies that didn't perform at the box office made a substantial amount of money on disc. Those days are long gone.
Yeah, so that's why we don't bring it up. Let's see here. DC Patience writes, are Captain Marvel spoilers okay now? We're getting close to when we can, because my general rule about when you can openly talk about spoilers is a movie's got to finish its entire theatrical run and then be out on home video for a while, like maybe a couple of months. And Captain Marvel's been out on home video for a while, so we're probably getting close, DC, to when I'm gonna pull away the barriers and say, yeah, now we can openly talk about Captain Marvel. So it's probably within the next couple of weeks. I'll probably say we can do that. All right. Chris Feldman writes, Led Zeppelin didn't write tunes everybody liked. They left that to the Bee Gees. Wayne's World is awesome. Listen, I was recently, every once in a while, Rob, you go down a rabbit hole of YouTube videos. Like you watch one YouTube about something and it's like, oh, this suggested video. And you click on that and then another suggested video. And I got down this rabbit hole and I started watching a bunch of videos. This was only just a couple of months ago about like best moments from Wayne's World. And you forget how great that movie is.
Oh, yeah.
Like you just totally forget. And I got to tell you, it's probably been, other than watching clips of it, it's probably been a good 10 years since I've watched. I think the last time I watched Wayne's World, I had just moved to LA, but it's been forever. I got to go back and watch that again. What's your favorite thing about Wayne's World?
Oh my God, there's so many. I can't even think of one now. But I have the double disc set of the Blu-rays.
Oh, really?
Wayne's World, Wayne's World 2, yeah. but I haven't watched those. Those are early Blu-rays I picked up. I probably haven't watched those in 10 years.
Yeah, that's same with me. It's been so while, but they really are something to admire and appreciate. All right, Sam Fisher writes, saw Rocket Man, really liked it, but I thought it was a littler too slow, and I would have liked the timeline to be a little bit more well defined. That's why when I talk about Rocket Man, it's not a good practice to talk about a movie always just in relation to another movie. Like, just talk about the movie on its own merits. But in a situation like this and in the context we're in, I will often start out talking about Rocket Man by saying, it's no Bohemian Rhapsody. And it's not. It's not as good as Bohemian Rhapsody. It's a different film from Bohemian Rhapsody. It's not as good, but whatever. But it is a really good film. And I agree. I think pacing was a part of the problem now and again. Not that it was filled with problems, but pacing was a problem. You're right. The moving through time the way they did was very undefined. Now, you could make an argument that maybe that was by design because they wanted to leave it a little bit more nebulous, but I agree with you, Sam. I feel if they did that a little bit better, it might have had us with the audience tracking with the movie a little bit better. When you track movie with the better, you're more invested in it. Maybe that could have been a difference. Rob, I know you were behind on it. Have you had a chance to catch Rocket Man yet?
I have not, and we were going to go last night for a 16-year-old's birthday, and she decided at the last minute we weren't seeing it. And I was very upset.
It's their birthday.
It is their birthday, and I was very angry.
All right. Next one up here. Der Wunderbar writes, Spielberg is the Peter Sellers of filmmaking. Like Peter, he's a chameleon. He can do anything. He realized, we talked the other day, Robert, about, and I've mentioned this before, is like, when you think about a lot of the great filmmakers, oftentimes there's a specific thumbprint they have on their movies. No more is that any more obvious than with like a Quentin Tarantino. When you're watching a Quentin Tarantino movie, you know within a minute you're watching a Quentin Tarantino movie. You can kind of say that for Martin Scorsese as well, so he's a little bit more diverse than, say, a Tarantino. One of the reasons why Spielberg, to me, I mentioned this again the other day, is that Spielberg can do it all. He can do it all. He can do a Ready Player One, which I freaking love, and he can do Abraham Lincoln. He can do War Horse, and he can do E.T. He can do Jaws, and he can do Saving Private Ryan. I mean, from sci-fi to comedy to drama to period piece to whatever. He can just do everything. He is a true chameleon of a filmmaker. And I'll be honest with you, I have a hard time thinking of other filmmakers that are in that league with Steven Spielberg of just, I have done every genre imaginable, and I've done it all with tremendous award-winning success. I really can't think of anybody else that's really done that. Has he ever done something that's really horror? I guess you can say Jaws is kind of horror in a way, but I don't know. How would you respond to that?
Well, I think he's a great. I think these. There were storytellers that in the days of yore in Hollywood, like in the 40s, that were contracted directors that would go from genre to genre to genre, but no one is as superlative as Spielberg has been. I mean, his command of cinematic language, the way he can move the camera, he's a consummate storyteller, and I think that Spielberg thing, the way he tells stories, he's truly magical. I mean, there's something magical that he's able to do. I don't think, the variety of genre he's worked in, I would say Duel was a horror film, and that was a made-for-TV movie. I mean, it wasn't a blood and guts horror movie, but it certainly was a suspenseful film. And I agree. I mean, he just traverses genres. I mean, look, he goes from Color Purple to Empire of the Sun. Which is, that's an incredible range. He can make a big budget comedy like 1941, which is crazy, and then he can go back and he can do a movie like Terminal. It's just, Terminal's not the greatest movie in the world, but he brought something to it. It certainly was very watchable. I've never seen a Steven Spielberg movie that is anything less than engaging. I watched AI the other night. It's on Netflix.
There are some people who love that movie.
I hadn't watched it in a long time, and that was mostly Stanley Kubrick's movie that he made to honor Kubrick, and Kubrick's my favorite director. And I watched it, and I was not taken with it when I first saw it, and I was just completely entranced by it when I watched it the other night, and I loved it. And wow, his movies endure; they stand the test of time.
With that said, hey guys, listen, I'm gonna cut the show a little bit short here today. You guys probably noticed I'm having a little bit of a technical glitch going on with the live question stuff, and I think you guys, when you send in questions live, I want your names to be up there because I want to honor you for supporting the channel, stuff like that. So I'm gonna cut the show short, and what I'm gonna do is, guys, I'm gonna gather up all the questions here, and I'm gonna do a companion video this afternoon. We're gonna get all those done so they're done properly, and I'm gonna fix this little glitch that we have here. Hey, listen, how great is Erin Cummings? I love Erin. She's been one of my dearest friends for years. She was one of the first people to sign up to be in my movie, The Anniversary. And it's great to see her all success. I just think she's just a bundle of joy to always be around. I just think she's one of the best girls in this business. But also speaking about one of the best people in the business, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Rob, it's always an honor having you here all the time. Where can people find you online?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at BurnettRM, find me on Instagram at RMBurnett, or find me on my own YouTube channel, The Burnettwork, and its adjacent website, theburnettwork.net.
And you guys, of course, can follow me on all social media simply at John Campea. Again, guys, apologies that we had to cut today's show a little bit short. Having a bit of a technical glitch, and I want to get that fixed because you guys deserve the best show that I can possibly give, and I just feel like we can't do that right now. So we'll get around to all those live questions today, guys. Thanks for being here, guys. Don't forget, we got a companion video coming a little bit later, and tomorrow, the next episode of the John Campea Show with me and Robert, and we hope to see you then. That'll do it for me for now, guys. Thanks a lot for being here. My name's John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.